Hey Saber fans, this is graypaladin, and in this video I'm going to review the Black Angel crossguard lightsaber from TXQ Sabers. Let's get started with a close-up. So first, I'm just going to go over the parts and everything that it comes with. So when you get the saber, it comes with two tsubas, and it's some assembly required, so none of these pieces or parts are attached when you open the saber. And if you want to see the unboxing video, just go ahead and check it out right up here. So you get the two tsubas, one small, one large, and then you get two of these caps that sit on top of the emitter. Comes with an instruction manual to tell you how to operate the TXQ board. It has a USB-C recharge cable. It does come with 9 O-rings, but you only need to use 8, which are attached on the quillons. It also comes with 2 Allen keys. The larger one is for all of your retention screws, and the smaller is for these screws that attach these acrylic blades here on the bottom. More on that in a second. It does come with these 2 acrylic bars. These are originally supposed to be attached on the bottom of the quillon on the side of the hilt, which to me this seems like overkill and a bit awkward. So reference the picture, you can see how it's supposed to look. And with the tsubas, there was no clear definitive way on how to attach these, and there's more on that in the unboxing video. But I always felt that these two were just a bit too much, but I did manage to secure one tsuba, which is a smaller one, which I feel like it gives a pretty decent aesthetic look, but the larger one I went without. And then lastly, you have a bag of screws. It comes with the small screws that attach the brown acrylic blades on the bottom, as well as a multitude of retention screws. You do get a blade of your choice size, and it does come with a dust cap, which is nice, and a bullet tip. So, getting into the dimensions of this hilt. From the top of the emitter to the base of the pommel, it has a length of 13.5 inches. And then when you look at the width of the quillons on the side, that's 6¼ inches wide. It has an outer diameter of 1.3 inches, a blade depth of 2 inches for the main, and for the quillon, it has 1.7. As far as the resonance chamber, the core only comes down to about here, so it's a pretty good distance from the pommel into the body, and that has a depth of 3.2 inches. And then with my current setup here, as it stands with the blade plugs and the one tsuba, it weighs 1 pound, 10 ounces. So there's a lot going on with this saber. And if you can see the original design, it has these 2 acrylic pieces that go on the bottom, which I feel doesn't really serve much of a purpose, and it just looks like it's just a bit too much, especially when you have them on both sides. Now, unfortunately, this saber did not come with the shorter side blades, so I had to order some. I went with the flame type blade plug, so it looks like, you know, fire or flames coming out the sides with the vents. So temporarily I put in just regular Saber Forge reactor blade plugs just to shield the eyes from all the additional brightness. Now, when you look at this, I ended up securing the tsuba with a retention screw. There's 2 holes on the inside here, which look like blade retention screws. So I actually took it in from the opposite side, and then when I put the tsuba in position, I just very patiently tightened that retention screw so that it was good and solid on one end, and it sealed the other end because there's 2 holes. So that's pretty stable. It's not going anywhere, and I think it has a decent look with this current setup. Slightly different than what you normally see in a crossguard hilt. This piece up here does unscrew. It came with 2 of these, and I couldn't figure out why. I thought maybe one was to secure the other tsuba, but through much review of the pictures and just tinkering with this thing, I just couldn't quite figure it out. So if you have any tips or you have experience with this, please put that in the comments down below. But otherwise, this black ring screws on the top here to secure that. And I thought maybe the tsuba would fit there and it would tighten it down, but the diameter of the ring here pushes it all the way down to the bottom at this point here. So I'm not really sure, but this does seal it up on the top there. Got 3 rings going all the way around at the top part of the blade holder. And initially, these can screw in, and then you get your LEDs on the side that sit loosely. But once you screw on the quillon, that LED is nice and secure and doesn't move anywhere. You have 2 retention screws on each side, on both sides. And this is pretty solid and secure. Like, these aren't going anywhere. It feels really stable. Here is our switch section, and you've got a power switch here and an auxiliary switch down here. And that has black anodizing in there. Speaking of black anodizing, it came with these O-rings, and those are secured here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I guess if you want to just have straight up silver, you can do that. But I'm really surprised that they included O-rings. Why not just anodize it like they did up here? When you get just below the switch section, you see this part right here. And this kind of looks like the repair to Rey's Graflex. And then separating the switch section from the body, you've got 3 more anodized black rings going around. And then you've got some flutes on the main body. Now, as far as the material here, this is all brushed aluminum. However, these edges here, they're not sharp, but they do kind of scratch a little bit. There's a bit of an edge there. If I can zoom in a little bit more, and you can hopefully see that, but there's a bit of an edge there. And with that, I feel like the hands get a bit raw spinning this around. The pommel, which I think is one of the more aesthetic features, pretty solid, pretty thick. I like this kind of rounded loop or arc in there. It's pretty deep, and it's got some good venting there as well. Notice you've got the 6 brass bars going all the way around. The only other brass accent on the hilt itself would be the outer ring of the tsuba. There is no other brass on here. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to include the tsuba, just so that the pommel just didn't seem like it was out there on its own. Really kind of ties it together, top and the bottom. Taking a look at the soundboard, this is TXQ's Smooth Swing RGB. There's the board there. Looks similar to the LGT board, but definitely has its variations. It has a 24mm speaker. I wouldn't necessarily call it a bass speaker, but they might call it a bass speaker. There is the USB-C recharge port. And then when you plug it in, it does light up or illuminate blue. And then when it's fully charged, the light turns off. And here's the battery, the 18650 lithium-ion rechargeable battery. With the 2 switches, there's a bezel around each end, which can be loosened. And unfortunately, as I was spinning the saber, they were coming loose at times. And when that happens, then the switch kind of goes down into the hilt just a hair. And it seems like it's a plunger system. I think the core on the inside probably has 2 tactile switches, and then these plastic buttons here push on that tactile switch. So it's like a plunger system here. And these little bezels do unscrew. And I'm assuming that if you needed to get access to the board, you'd probably just unscrew here, here, and here, undo all the retention screws, probably unscrew these 2 bezels, and then the core most likely would slide out. That is, depending on what this setup is with the side LEDs, those may cause a problem trying to pull that out unless they collapse in so it all slides out together. I'm not sure. I haven't tried, and I wasn't going to attempt that. But all in all, I think it's a pretty good, solid-looking saber. I'm going to put in the blade and go over all the functions and the features on this saber, as well as give you a wide angle of how this saber performs. All right, let's see this saber in action. So the saber will automatically go into deep sleep after 20 minutes of inactivity. To wake it up, just tap any button and the saber will fire right up. If you notice, it has two illuminated switches. Both the power and the auxiliary are blue. It always remains blue regardless of what color the blade actually is. You can have a red blade, but the switches will remain the same color, blue. The power button is on the top. And to power off, just tap it once again. It's not a press and hold, which is a nice feature. You also have gesture control, so you can power on with a twist. You can also power off with a twist. To change fonts, tap your auxiliary switch, which is on the bottom.
Star Killer.
The smooth swing on this is pretty good. To engage the flash and clash, just hit the saber. The blaster deflection is one tap of the auxiliary switch on the bottom. To engage lockup, just press and hold for 1 second and release the auxiliary switch. To disengage lockup, just tap the auxiliary switch once. Now this has 3 volume settings, mute, low, and high. So right now this is currently on the high setting. Just while this blade is powered off or in standby mode, press and hold the power switch and release for 1 second. Now we're in mute. So you have the light, you have all the flashes, but there's no sound. Now the low.
Low volume.
For those folks that want to really get some practice in without disturbing anyone else around you. And I'll get back to high.
High volume.
You can turn off the clash sensitivity, but you have to do this while the blade is, or the saber is powered on. So while it's on, just press and hold the power switch for about 1 second and release, and you'll hear the confirmation.
Clash off.
Clash off. So when you hit it, nothing. To put the clash back on, repeat the process.
Clash off.
Clash on. So it also has 4 blade effects, and that can be done with the blade or the saber turned on. What you want to do is you want to press and hold the auxiliary switch and twist, and that will cycle through your blade effects. So here is this is what we call the unstable. What's nice about this effect is when you move the saber, the flash actually speeds up or is less. So there's less blinking, and then it blinks even more rapidly when you stop moving the saber. The next effect, I believe this is the glow, so it's going to get brighter and it's going to dim a little bit and get brighter again. This is probably my favorite effect of the 4 on here. The next effect, which is a different one, this one only lights the blade when it's in motion. As soon as you stop moving the blade, the light turns off. So small movements, it still catches that. It might blink. But you still have the same features of your blaster deflection and lockup. So this one I'm not a huge fan of, but sure, it's another nice option. And then your standard is going to be just the light on full and no problem. Now if you want to change color, the blade has to be on. This time make sure that it's tilted down. Same process as changing the blade effect, but now this time the blade is aimed downward. Hold the auxiliary switch and twist, and you can change colors. And each time you twist, you can hold the button for each one, and you can cycle through all your colors. This board also has 3 music tracks. This is done when the saber is off, or the blade is off. Tilt it down, hold the auxiliary switch and twist. Here's one track, and when that's on, you can do whatever you want with the saber. You can change to the next track, same, repeat the process, aim downward, hold auxiliary and twist. And then the last track is Imperial March.
Kenobi.
And then once you've gone through the 3 tracks, you can turn the music off after you get past the Imperial March. And now the music is off. So that last font was General Kenobi. Next font.
The Butcher.
It's called The Butcher. This one I'm a big fan of. Now, one thing that I don't like about this saber is how high the switches are to the top of the saber, which means that if I want to swing, which is the most comfortable place to spin the saber, every time I move my hand or do a spin, I'm likely going to tap this top button and power it on or off. So if there's one thing I could change about this, I think I would lower these switches maybe down here, and I could just do it with my smaller fingers. But you can also hold the saber below those 2 switches. It's still manageable, but it's just not quite as comfortable as if I were way up here at the top. Next font. Leia. Now, I have to say, this is my first time using the crossguard lightsaber, and it does feel a bit awkward. I think I'd rather stick to more conventional lightsaber, but this is still pretty cool. And just the matter how the Queons are, I haven't had an issue with my hand hitting them, but if I had blades sticking out of there, most likely I would.
Prepare a boarding party.
Prepare a boarding party. This is obviously Darth Vader from Rogue One. This is Ahsoka, like a fulcrum. And of course, you can cycle through your colors to get something that's a bit more matching the font. But like I said before, as the blade color changes, the switches remain the same blue color.
Kenobi.
I like that font. That's a pretty good one.
Count Dooku.
Oh, of course.
Red.
This is an interesting font. I'm not sure who created this one. At first I didn't like it, but after playing with it a bit, it's quite nice. And you actually get different blaster sounds, not just the same one. So that's pretty cool. I am the Senate. It sounds like they're mostly dark side fonts on this one. It's Cal Kestis. You sick Yoda! This sounds nothing like Yoda's lightsaber, but I think when you want to change colors, the wrist flick has to be pretty quick for it to really register. Now this one's interesting. It almost sounds like you got accent swings in here. What I like about this TXQ board is that it doesn't completely have one hum, one swing. Some of the fonts actually do mix in different swings or different blaster sounds that we heard before, which I think is pretty cool. This really sets it apart from LGT, which is really just one channel, one track for everything. So I like the variation on this. It's a pretty good board. And then this is the last font. This is a Kylo Ren. So of course for this, just to get a bit more accurate, and there we go. So there you have it. That is the Black Angel by TXQ Saber's crossguard. I like this saber. It's pretty cool. My first experience with it, I think not having clear instructions on how to attach the tsubas and everything else would have been helpful, but those acrylic pieces, wasn't a big fan of that. But the nice thing is you can kind of choose your own configuration. You can do one tsuba, both tsubas, the small one, the large one. You can have the acrylic pieces or not. So the choice is yours. You can go with the O-rings or not. So I do like the idea that you can kind of customize this to your own individual taste. However, it does not come with the side blades. Just keep that in mind. So if you go for this saber, make sure you order some side blades so that way you have that, or just do some blade plugs, whichever you prefer. But anyway, that is my review of the Black Angel. Thank you very much for watching, and may the Force be with you.